We got a special treat here for you guys here today on our first caller here. We're going to go to moderator extraordinaire, Michael G. And I do have a couple of burning questions here for you, Michael. So the first question I want to ask you is, of course, I take all the CLP subscriber calls. I look at them all. You pass along the best non-subscriber calls to me. And my question is, do you run any sort of favoritism for calls in the Philadelphia area?
I would say Boston Encore and the Philadelphia area and the higher games definitely get precedent. If it's someone I know and they tell me they're going to send in a hand or they ask how to submit it, if it's decent, I will definitely submit it to you for good, for sure.
Mad Mardigan 21 says, of course he shows favoritism. Although I will say, though, that Parks is like that. It could be as big a room as Commerce now. So it just.
We had, Saturday night, we had 40, every single table in the room was at use on Saturday night.
Like how many 10-10 games did they have?
They had more 2-5. I would say they probably had 3 10-10.
Wow, that is crazy. 3 10-10s. I thought you meant 10 10-10s, but I've seen a lot. But it does remind me back of the days like of Commerce where we used to get 6 or 7 or 8, 5-10. 5, 10, 1,500 cap games. All right. So we got a hand here. By the way, too, I want to promote Michael does a podcast for us every other week, Race to the $5 blind level, his story about how he moved up and then playing at the $5 blind level, mostly in the Philly area. So I think this hand actually might be covered on his podcast coming out tomorrow, but we decided to do it anyways here on the show, right? So this is 2-5 out of Parks. Is that right?
There's 2-5 out of Parks, but this isn't on the podcast because I already recorded it by the time this hand took place.
Oh, okay. So this might be on like the podcast maybe for next time in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it could be.
Right. So 2-5 with the Parks, 1K cap. Okay. And how deep are you?
I'm 1,300.
Okay. So 1,300 effective. Okay.
There's an early position limp. Hijack, who's been extremely active, makes it 20. Button, who's also, I would say, a calling station, calls 20. I'm in the big blind with King of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds.
King of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds in the big blind. So EP limp, hijack to 20, button calls. Hero with King, Queen off in the big blind. This is probably maybe sometimes squeeze, maybe sometimes 3-bet. I'm assuming you're probably always squeezing with the suited King, Queen, right?
Suited I am, yes.
And
I thought about it. I just called. I thought about squeezing, but it wasn't suited. And so I just called.
Okay. I don't think that that's bad. I mean, one of the things too, in terms of structuring, especially when you're deep and you're not playing with a straddle, so you're over, almost 300 big blinds deep, you definitely want to prefer the suited hands for 3-betting. So King, Queen off, if you want to sometimes call, that's fine. I mean, what would you have done with King 10 off? Would you have called or would you have folded?
I did fold it earlier. I had that and I folded it from the same spot from the big blind earlier.
You also want to, you want to get the limper out, and maybe the hijack's like over isolating the limper. Button's a flat caller, so anytime you can get it heads up. That's why I think maybe I probably would 3-bet this at a fairly high frequency. But okay, you call, and then what happens?
The original limper called.
Okay.
So we went 4 ways to a flop with $80 in it.
All right, so 4 ways, $80. King, Queen off. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Flop came Jack of Diamonds, 10 of Diamonds, 6 of Diamonds.
Jack of Diamonds, 10 of Diamonds, 6 of Diamonds. So all monotone.
Monochrome board, yeah.
Monochrome. And I'll have to call you out again, Mike. I think the way, Mike, I think he said he had like slight dyslexia or something like that. But when he would always pass along notes to me, Mike would send me like these Discord messages with the flop. It would be, I like to try to do it from high to low, but people, you can go 6-10 Jack. But then let's like right here, we'd have Jack 10-6. Mike would send me the turn. And then let's say the turn was like the 3 of clubs. He would write the board out 3 of clubs, Jack of Diamonds, 10 of Diamonds, 6 of Diamonds. And then the river would be first again. And I'm like, Mike, what are you doing?
I know that you said this. Listen, I'm dyslexic.
So you've got 2 overcards open-ended, and you have the, I guess you could say the third nut flush draw, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it gets checked through.
Oh, so it gets checked through. Check, 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 check. And of course, the preflop raiser is the guy that's in the middle. So you've got you and the EP limp who are naturally checking, but then you've got the button who checks behind, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it's still $80. Okay. And what was the turn?
King of clubs comes on the turn.
All right. So Jack 10-6, all diamonds, check through. Turn is the king of clubs. Okay.
And this is the first inflection point question I have. I fired out 30. 35, excuse me, 35.
Yeah, and I do remember you sending this to me a couple of days ago when it happened, and I would probably mostly check here. And I've talked about this quite a bit on my podcast and on videos. I always find it a little bit strange for the out of position player to come out and bet a card that traditionally hits the pre-flop raiser's check back range. But this is with a big caveat though, Mike. I actually don't think this bet is that bad because it's a monotone board and people are playing somewhat cautiously. And I think you probably do have a fair amount of leads anyways, even with an overcard on a monotone board, because there's flushes, right, that are out there. But if you can sort of picture if it was like, Jack 10 deuce, rainbow, and it got checked through, and then all of a sudden, like the turn was a king, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I think, for king queen to come out and lead from out front. But because this is monotone, I suppose it's okay. I would probably still do a fair amount of checking here, but okay, so you bet 35.
The original raiser called and the button called.
So the limper folds.
Limper folded,
Yeah.
and the other two called.
So call. So 185 here with king queen, with the queen of diamonds, jack of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds. Turns the king of clubs. Okay, what's the river here?
3 of diamonds.
3 of diamonds. So, one-liner out there, or excuse me, not one-liner, a 4 flush. And you've got the second nuts, right?
Correct.
Well, you've got the third nuts, excuse me. Third nuts, right. The ace and the king beat you. So, I don't, in the texture of the board, so the jack and the 10 are out there. You've got the queen, the ace and the king beat you. So, and you've got two people who are obviously, two people that are in the field, one the pre-flop raiser. So I think it's a little bit, and I know that you have a little bit of a kind of a nittier image, Mike. So I think it's overly optimistic to come out and bet here for value and expect to get called here by the 8 or the 9, especially when you're betting into two people. So I think, with an image like yours from up front with 3 people, a more efficient way would be to check and evaluate. King of diamonds is probably much, much closer, but I think with the queen of diamonds here, it's a check and evaluate. And what did you do?
I checked.
Okay, so here are checks. Yep.
The original better, the original raiser bets 150.
So the hijack bets 150. And what does the button do?
He folds.
So the button folds. Okay, so what would the hijack bet here? And this is a pretty large sizing here too, right? 150. Again,
150 and 185.
Yeah. The ace and the king beat you. So he would have to check through, the ace of diamonds on the flop, which is possible. But I will say, though, on these monotone boards, it's not like having ace 5 of diamonds and the board comes out jack 10 6 with 2 diamonds, which you might see somebody check the nut flush draw. He's not going to have ace 5 off. So he would have like ace king and ace queen with the ace of diamonds, fairly sort of big draws on a board like this. I mean, you won't always see somebody bet, but I think at this level, ace queen with the ace of diamonds, ace king with the ace of diamonds might do way more betting than checking, even to 3 people. So if you think that the ace of diamonds will bet, now he could have like ace jack with the ace diamonds, but even still, pair plus flush draw, then you're left with the king of diamonds. Now, would a hand like ace king with the king of diamonds on the flop check, ace queen with the queen of diamonds check, and then king queen with the king of diamonds just check. And again, king queen is sort of like, open-ended on the flop. So I think you might be just left here with like, a hand like king jack off with the king of diamonds, king queen with the king of diamonds, if I'm not concerned with the ace. And I don't know if this sizing is really consistent with the king, although he still might think that that's fairly strong. It's probably pretty close. I mean, you're getting 2.5 to 1 here. What were your thoughts?
I hate when people do this, but I am going to do it. He came to the table with the melon chips, which is from 10-10. So he either came from a 10-10 game or he was waiting for a 10-10 game. But he was very active. He wanted to push the straddle. He was a younger Indian guy. So I thought 150 into 185. What are you betting that you check, flop, check, turn, or you just call the turn? So I mean, listen, I snap called. I can't tell you I took more than a second. As soon as he bet, I just turned it over and called, and he didn't even bother showing his hand, and I didn't ask. And I think it was just because I showed weakness by checking. And to your point in the text or the DM to me, I would have definitely gotten more money if I would have just checked turn and then check called turn and then check called river.
Why? Just because you think he would have gone bet, you mean?
Yeah, I think so. I think he would have stabbed at the turn and then barreled the river.
Yeah, but I don't know, Mike. Like if you check the turn and he bets, and let's say the button calls and then you overcall, okay? And then the river you check and then he bets again. I even think that that's stronger than
Yeah, that's a good
than
point.
this. I mean, I would probably release in that spot when he bets into two people. The only thing I would say, which I'm kind of surprised that he just mucks, right, his hand, is like, what did he call the turn with? Oh, you say you turned your hand over. That's why he mucked, right? You didn't wait for him. Okay.
I just fast roll it. I don't like wasting time.
Right.
I don't want to embarrass him for showing that he bluffed, which I just, and anyone who's listening that has played with me, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I literally throw my cards over with the chips. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean,
I was pretty certain I was good.
but this is different though, Mike. I mean, Matt Mardigan 21 makes a good point. He said I would not fast roll here with calling with the third nuts. This is different from my pet peeve, with a lot of people disagree with me, which is like, let's say that you check, he bets, you call, and he says, good call. I don't care. I'll just turn my hand over. It sounds to me like what you did was you checked, he bet, you called, and you just he didn't say good call. You just turned your hand over.
He said, you're good.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And then I just turned it over.
Oh, okay. Okay. I misunderstood. No, I misunderstood. Well, that's interesting though, because it's like, what did he call the turn with? You know what I'm saying? Like, what did he call the turn with? Unless he just thought that you're so nitty once you call him, like he's never good. But it's kind of, it's interesting. I'm a little surprised with what he called the turn with. Interesting little hand. I mean, nothing crazy going on. Probably, I would say mostly squeeze pre. I would probably do a lot of checking on the turn, although you are allowed to bet. And the river's probably much closer than we think. And it would be interesting to know what he actually bluffed with. But I know that you've been on quite a little bit of a roll here, Mike. I know I've seen some of your results for 2024, right, in some of these games.
Yeah, February. I mean, I talked about that in the podcast. Everything went my way February. I mean, someone turned a full house on me Saturday night, and last Saturday, and I rivered a full house.
Oh, wow.
I had set over set twice that I was good. And conversely, I had set over set where I was bad, and I lost one of them. I only lost $65 in a 2-5 game.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm running really well, and
that's good. All right, thank you very much, Mike.
All right, take care, guys. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.